You know, AIPAC unfortunately has shown itself to be a racist organization, an organization that's supporting the genocide in Gaza right now.
Whoa, those are strong comments by Representative Jamaal Bowman against one of the strongest lobbies in the country, AIPAC. That's the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Their job is to eliminate any U.S. politician who doesn't do exactly what Israel says. And in fact, it has to be the right wing Israeli government that they all bow their heads to. I'm going to show you how they eliminate politicians in a second. But in fact, even the CNN host here, Abby Phillip, who later will be terrible in this interview, does in the beginning accurately lay out what they're about to do to Bowman.
I want to ask you about your reelection bid, where this issue is a huge one.
Yeah.
You are being targeted by AIPAC, a pro-Israel group. They've said that they are going to spend millions in your district.
Well, that's right. They're going to spend millions to try to eliminate it. Why? Because they're in favor of Jewish Americans, etc.? No. They've actually attacked Jewish Americans like Andy Levin. They spent $4 million against him. He's from a legendary Jewish family. He's a Zionist. He believes in Israel completely. He led his local synagogue. This isn't about anything related to religion. It's about a foreign government. This PAC says you must support Israel no matter what they do. Otherwise, we'll spend millions of dollars against you and will eliminate you from American politics. And they're not at all shy about it. And so they did it to Andy Levin in Michigan. They're threatening to do it to Jamaal Bowman. And all Andy Levin said was, can we treat Palestinians as human beings? And I love Israel, and I think a two-state solution is going to be better for Israel. They're like, how dare you? No, you must be against all Palestinian rights. And they found Haley Stevens, who said, yes, sir, absolutely, sir. I will serve the lobbyists no matter what, sir. So Haley Stevens will never, ever vote against Israel no matter what they do. And because that is what they're looking for. That's the point of these legalized bribes. So now that's two people already, Levin and Bowman, that they spent millions against. In New York, Yuleen New was a progressive. A group called New York Progressive all of a sudden spent $400,000 against her to try to help Dan Goldman get elected. It turned out afterwards, of course, they were neither from New York or progressive. AIPAC bragged, ha ha, tricked you guys, that was us. Now they're doing it again, but this time in Oregon. In fact, they already did it. There was two primaries where there were very clear favorites. The problem was they thought Palestinians were human beings and they shouldn't be slaughtered. And AIPAC's like, how dare you? But now they know that if it's AIPAC spending the money in places that are near Portland, that is not a popular position at all. So what do? They found a PAC called 314 Action Fund, and they are supposed to be a pro-science PAC. The progressive candidate in one of these races was Shushila Jayapal. She's the sister of the Progressive Caucus chair, Pramila Jayapal. And so they spent $2.2 million against her. Why? Because she's against science? No, she loves science. Well, that's actually more money than that PAC spent in the last election combined on all candidates across the country. Well, Intercept broke a story from two Democratic congresspeople saying, no, it's AIPAC donors that are funneling their money through a so-called science PAC. After the election was over, they revealed who their donors were. And of course, it was massively pro-Israel donors that normally give to AIPAC but funnel their money through this science fund, including Michael Bloomberg, former mayor of New York, and including a guy who partly owns an Israeli cybersecurity company. He makes money from the bombs that we drop on Israel on Gaza through Israel. Anytime Israel is taking military action, that guy's making money. So he both wants to, I guess, protect Israel in his own mind or in the right wing of Israel. But on top of that, he makes money when Israel goes to war against Gaza. So we have guys who own foreign companies pouring in millions of dollars to simply buy seats in America. This is all out in the open, but they weren't done yet. In that same Jayapal race, another group came out, Voters for a Responsive Government, and they spent $3.25 million against Jayapal. Guys, you have to understand in the context of Congress, $5.5 million in one congressional race is an astounding amount of money. So I wondered, hey, are they for a responsive government? Have they done things in favor of responsive government before? No, they just opened up shop. They opened up shop one day after the reporting deadline so they wouldn't have to say who their donors were. And lo and behold, you're going to be shocked to find out that their donors, after the election was over, We found out we're pro-Israel donors. Of course. This is how you buy all of the American Congress. Now, why all of the American Congress and not just these? You think the other congressmen aren't paying attention to this? They see that if you dare defy Israel even 1 inch, they will eliminate you. Even if you're one from a legendary Jewish family, even if you're for totally benign two-state solution, you have to be a Netanyahu right-wing zealot in order for AIPAC not to eliminate you. Why do you think they're inviting Netanyahu, both the Republicans and the Democrats, to speak in front of Congress, this butcher, the guy who's now killed over 36,000 people, including over 25,000 innocent women and children, a stadium full of women and children, this barbaric monster? They're all going to give him standing ovation after standing ovation. But we're not done yet. I want to go back to the Bowman interview, and I want to show you what Abby Phillips does in terms of media and how Bowman's fighting back. But one more person you should know about. Jamie McLeod-Skinner, really good progressive, also in Oregon. Well, she had one problem, though. She was not sufficiently right-wing pro-Israeli Netanyahu government. So what do? The Science Fund spent about $500,000 against her. But they're like, wait a minute, in the Jayapal race, at least you were backing a doctor. You had some sort of maybe plausible claim that you cared about science in this race. The person that McLeod-Skinner was running against is a McDonald's franchise owner. What does that have to do with science? They're like, yeah, don't worry about it, okay? It's just, no, you must not speak out against Israel. I mean, we're for science and responsive government. So, now, Jamaal Bowman is going to lay into AIPAC more. Watch the whole thing, and then I'm going to show you the horrible things that Abby Phillip did in the rest of the interview.
You know, AIPAC, unfortunately, has shown itself to be a racist organization, an organization that's supporting the genocide in Gaza right now. And my opponent is partnering with them, even though the majority of their donors are MAGA racist Republicans trying to take our voting rights, trying to take reproductive rights, gutting affirmative action, and supporting fascism.
Again, super strong words there, saying that AIPAC is supporting candidates who support fascism and calling them racist. That's strength. I love that from Representative Bowman here. But now here comes Abby Phillip. So look, why the politicians sell out to AIPAC is crystal clear. And there's so many more examples. I mean, look, this giant amount of money, $5.5 million against Jayapal, $4 million against Andy Levin. And by the way, $4 million against Nina Turner. She had a 35-point lead in the Cleveland area. Chantel Brown, a candidate nobody had ever heard of. And they guys, there's this an implicit way that they do this. Brown raised her hand out of nowhere and said, I will support Israel no matter what. And lo and behold, AIPAC and its allies like Democratic Majority for Israel showed up. By the way, it's not Democratic Majority for Cleveland. It's Democratic Majority for Israel. So none of this is nuanced or complicated. It is brazen. You must support a foreign government, otherwise we will eliminate you. So Chantel Brown raises her hand, says, I'll support Israel no matter what they do, and she's delivered on that promise. And all of a sudden, $4 million magically pops up to help Chantel Brown defeat Nina Turner. So this happens over and over, and they drill home the message, you better not defy a foreign government, otherwise you'll be eliminated from American politics. So these are all facts. You could look them up. They are 100% clear. There's no question about it. And they partly brag about it. They don't mind me saying things like this. They're like, that's right. I hope he tells everybody, those Congress people, they better never defy us. And if they ever defy us, we'll spend $4 million, $5 million eliminating them. Does this look like democracy? Does it look like our representatives are serving us? But now we turn to media. Abby Phillip, who asked a good question in the beginning, now all of a sudden has 3 to 4 questions in a row, all trying to paint Bowman as an anti-Semite. Wait, he made some interesting and potentially inflammatory comments about AIPAC. Don't you want to ask him why he thinks they're racist? Well, don't you want to ask, hey, wait, this is outrageous, the couple of $1 million they're going to spend in your race? Anything? Nope. She then goes 100% to AIPAC framing. Watch.
Putting aside AIPAC, are you in part responsible for alienating your own constituents, many of whom are Jewish, and were very unhappy with how you responded to October 7th?
Do you see that trick? Oh, I'm putting aside AIPAC. This isn't about AIPAC at all. But golly gee, the things you said about your Jewish constituents after October 7th, they really made them worry. Wait a minute. First of all, he didn't say anything about the Jewish constituents. And you're assuming that they would be upset that he's not supporting the right-wing government of Israel. But a lot of Jewish Americans are actually really bothered by Netanyahu's government. So that's a weird assumption. And then she makes it seem like he said terrible things after October 7th, as if he supports Hamas. But Bowman clarifies later in the interview, wait a minute, no, you're referring to comments I made several months after October 7th. So why say right after October 7th? Because she wants to paint him as, well, I mean, this guy who seems to like what happened on October 7th. Now, I'm not doing it on AIPAC's behalf, but you must answer for how anti-Semitic you are. That is the clear implication. But, you know, if it was just one question, you might say, hey, Cenk, you're over-extrapolating here. Is it really the case? Watch. She does it again, and I swear this is a different question in the same interview.
Do you have any regrets about how you talked about this issue, especially in those early days right after the terror attack on October 7th?
Notice she doesn't talk about what AIPAC is doing to try to buy this race, even though she acknowledged it in the beginning. She now has turned it around. Do you have regrets? It's your fault, isn't it? Look at what you said right after October 7th. You should have regrets. Ooh, it's your fault. I can't believe that. Wait a minute, how many times are you going to ask the same question? After Bowman responds, she goes back and asks it again, implying as if Bowman is the problem, as if Bowman was the anti-Semite and the poor little AIPAC had to go out there and attack him and spend all this money. It is disgusting framing. And they do this almost every time in media. And since AIPAC is so toxic now, she then pivoted to, there's another group that's pro-Israel, J Street. And J Street's complicated. Sometimes I like what they do. And I think during this, offensive against Gaza, they haven't been nearly the moderates that they're supposed to be. And they've taken a very in my opinion, pro-Israel, pro-Netanyahu government stance. And so, as Bowman's about to point out, there's a lot of other Jewish groups that don't agree at all. But she takes the most right-wing groups and calls J Street left-wing as if they're supporting Palestinian rights in this case and goes, well, isn't it your fault for defying all of these wonderful pro-Israel groups? So Bowman responds here. Let's show you.
Well, we condemned the attacks on October 7th immediately. And it wasn't shortly after October 7th that they unendorsed us. It was a couple of months, I think, afterwards. You know, I would like J Street to challenge AIPAC more and not be AIPAC light in Congress. So when you say they're left-leaning, I smiled because there are other organizations like If Not Now, Jewish Voices for Peace, and others that are truly left-leaning and truly fighting anti-Semitism in a real way and for free Palestine.
Just to be clear,
So Representative Bowman points out wonderful Jewish American groups who are fighting against anti-Semitism and fighting for rights for Palestinians, which makes sense. That's what we should all be in favor of, right? And what does Abby Phillip do? She goes right back to, let's be clear, though. And then again, she sets up a question that frames Bowman as an anti-Semite, even though he just said he's partnering with groups that fight anti-Semitism. Because it doesn't matter what Jamaal Bowman says. It's all in the framing. It's all in the questions. So why the media does this is more complicated. In the past, the media was 100% pro-Israel, no matter what. If you step 1 inch off of that position, you'd be called an anti-Semite. These days, it's more complicated. Jeremy Diamond and Clarissa Ward on CNN have done brilliant reporting from Gaza. And from time to time, other networks allow some decent reporting, and New York Times and Washington Post from time to time have had good reports. But overall, the groupthink of media is what Abby Phillip does here, which is, if you oppose Israel, I'm never going to focus on the millions and millions and millions of dollars they spend, obviously, buying these elections. That's what do you think the $4 million is for? What do you think the $5.5 million is for? And in a local race for a U.S. Congress seat, that amount of money guarantees victory for one side, guarantees it. But she doesn't care about that. She's not focused on it. She mentioned it super briefly in the beginning, and the rest of the interview was, well, how do you answer for yourself, you goddamn anti-Semite? Okay, how dare you oppose Israel right after October 7th? Are you supporting Hamas? After October 7th? Oh, Jamaal Bowman. Aren't you worried about your Jewish constituents? Come on, man. The framing is super obvious. And the other outlets like Politico, when they were talking about 314 Action Fund, they never clarified that it was AIPAC donors funneling money into this so-called science fund. They never explained, oh my God, they're spending more money in this one race than they've ever spent on an entire election cycle. They hide all of those facts from you. And still, I would say the overwhelming majority of American media it covers the issue as if Israel is obviously right. Whatever the IDF says is true. And so the Palestinians, okay, maybe we say, oh, yeah, let's cosplay empathy. While we care so much about the poor Palestinians who I just showed you on tape were burned alive, and if I don't say I have some sympathy for them, I'm going to look like the monster that I actually am. So I'll pretend to have sympathy, and then they turn back around. Are you saying you don't agree with Netanyahu's position? How dare you? Are you an anti-Semite? Oh, of course you have to continue the bombing. They had no choice but to defend themselves. So look, the media is more complicated. It's groupthink on a massive level. It's been going on for decades. If you step outside of what Israel wants, you will be smeared as an anti-Semite. There's an overwhelming chance that that'll happen. So when you're a politician, think about it, guys. Are you going to be brave enough to say, you know what, I'm going to take on Israel's position because it's just too many dead people? I mean, my heart was broken over what happened on October 7th, 1,200 people dead. Now, but we've got 36,000. That's 30 times the number of people, including more than 30 times the number of civilians killed in Gaza as opposed to Israel. No, if you do that brave position, you know that they're going to try to eliminate you. They're going to spend anywhere from $500,000 to $5.5 million against you. That is a near guaranteed loss, especially if you're a new candidate. Like the McLeod Skinner or Shashila Jayapal or Yulin New, etc. If you're an incumbent like Jamaal, because of your name recognition, you still have a chance at winning. And I think he's got a shot at winning here. But he is being incredibly brave. Are you going to take that on? Are you going to take on almost all of American media? And some brave souls do. But outside of those brave souls, whether it's AOC and Jayapal and Bernie Sanders and Jamie Raskin, and even on the right, Tom Massey, etc. Outside of those brave souls, over 90% of Congress, the House, I think about over 85% of the House, voted on a bill to make criticism of Israel illegal. In America. It's outrageous. The language in there is so broad that it could apply to almost any criticism of Israel. And they're like, that's right, you should have First Amendment rights, unless you're criticizing that foreign government, in which case take it out. Why would they vote for such an outrageous law? Jerry Nadler, another legendary Jewish American representative from New York, voted against it and was like, what are you guys doing? This is not good. This doesn't help us. This doesn't help us. This doesn't help Israel. This doesn't help America. This is over the top. But the other 85% of congressmen, both Republicans and Democrats, were like, yes, sir, of course, AIPAC. We will immediately make any criticism of you illegal. Of course, sir. And this is why they do it. And the rest of the media never tells you these things. And guys, take what AIPAC does and multiply it by 200 for all of the other lobbies that control our politicians. The drug lobby, the oil lobby, the banker lobby, the defense contractor lobby, Big Sugar, you name it, everyone buys these guys. And they never defy any of them because they know that if they defy any lobby, millions are going to be spent against them and they're going to lose their seat. This is how we lost our democracy. I write all about it in my book, Justice is Coming. You can get it at tyt.com/justice. But the bottom line is, when you're shocked at how craven our politicians are in serving a foreign government, this is why.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.